Hi, this is Naomi with Sword and Steel, and today I have with me my friend Mariette, who has been on the down low learning Achtung Panzer with me, and today we're going to give you our first impressions, so I hope you enjoy. So everyone probably knows that I have got a fair bit of experience with wargaming in general. So what kind of experience do you have, Mariette?
War games in particular, I haven't done anything before, but I played different tabletop games. So, like myself, I've played Call of Cthulhu, D&D, Warhammer. So that's kind of my experience with tabletop gaming, and this is pretty different for me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this experience with this particular game. So thank you for having me with this one.
I very much appreciated that you said yes to try it out with me.
Oh, good. Yeah, me too.
All right, so I guess the first things first, Achtung Panzer, for people who don't know, is a World War II tank warfare game for the tabletop. And you're only playing about 2 to probably 7 tanks if you get into the bigger points games, but I would say 3 to 5 might be the average from what we've experienced.
Yeah. For like a normal couple hour time frame.
And the battlefield terrain is super important for this game, which we have learned.
Yes.
So with that in mind, what do you think, after you've played a few games now, what are your initial thoughts on it? If someone was going to get into the game, what do you think that they should know about it?
I think that it is a really good game for people who might even be new to tabletop gaming in general, because a lot of the mechanics for this game are pretty intuitive. You know what you're doing in the sense that you have tanks that are attacking other tanks, and you know what you can do with a tank to attack someone else. So I like that. I think that it's really easy to start figuring it out in that sense pretty easily too. And as far as like a war game, I kind of enjoy the focus on tanks in particular more.
I've always loved the tanks.
Yeah,
aspect.
so I think that really was interesting in that sense. You get to learn some history, and also you just have some fun. I think they've got some fun mechanics in this game too.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Like, initially the rules, if you just run through the rules, particularly if you're brand new to wargaming, if you just look at all the rules, it might be intimidating.
That's true.
But to actually play it out, the rules make sense.
Yes.
So you have to spot your target tank, and then you have to aim at your target tank. Because if you recall, your gunner actually only has a little window in the tank to look at. So when you're looking through that, you have to spot your tank. And then the gunner, the gunner has to like stop the driver, and the commander is helping if he's unbuttoned to aim at the tank. And then the ammunition has to be loaded into the tank, and the ammunition, how easy it is to load into the tank, depends on what kind of tank that you have. But you can hurry things along if you really need to, and the experience of your crew matters in that you could have inexperienced crew, which won't be so good at doing the difficult aspects of manning your tank. And I would suggest definitely starting small. So what we did was we started at 1 tank each, and we didn't use half of the rules. There are cards in Achtung Panzer that really bring a lot of fun to the rules.
It did, yeah, absolutely.
But it also brings complexity, but you can easily start off playing without those at all, and that's what I would suggest. Just to learn the basics, just start off with 1 versus 1. And so what happened when we did 1 versus 1?
I liked when I started playing 1 versus 1. I did well. My tanks were German tanks when I was playing, and yeah, they're designed differently. And I think that's another thing that's important as like a point with the game too, is not every tank is going to be able to defeat another tank as easily. So I think that that's kind of good to know before you go into battle sometimes, is that will make a big difference, like what your tank is versus your opponent.
So when we were doing 1v1, her tiger tank,
yes,
which is like, if my tank got in front of that gun, it's gonna be dead before I can do anything.
Yes.
Which brings me back to the point that terrain is very much important in this game. Terrain that hides even part of your tank has a massive effect, which is absolutely accurate. I found that for anyone who has played the video game or computer game World of Tanks, I think more than any other tabletop game for tanks that I've played, this tank feels like World of Tanks, because you're spotting, you're aiming, you're hiding behind terrain so that a one shot doesn't slaughter you.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Yes.
And late war German tanks are just more powerful than poor old British tanks, generally speaking, particularly if you don't stick yourself behind terrain. It was a lot of fun to be blown up. Very educational.
Very educational, yes.
I wanted to see how accurate it was. Totally accurate.
Great simulation for a wartime scenario there, yep.
You don't need any brand new tanks. If you already are playing bolt action, you already have all the tanks that you need. And what you need instead are the rules system and the tokens that are involved with the tanks. And when it comes to the tokens, the cards, and the rule book, what do you think about what you need? Whether it's good or bad, what do you think about what a new person will need to actually play the game?
I think that with regards to all the tokens, that's always something that you can lose or misplace temporarily. So there's that aspect, having all the tokens to keep track of. You kind of need to learn to remember to use all the tokens throughout the game. But it takes away from some of the guesswork and having to keep a lot in mind while you're playing too. It's easy to refer back to the tokens that you have. So I think that that's actually really useful and easy, even when you're starting out just getting used to the game. It's easy to remember what's happening because both of you can see your tokens. So I think that that's really great. You don't have to keep as much in your memory while you're playing. I like that part. But yeah, you could lose the pieces. With regards to like the actual rule book, there's a lot to read through. It seems a bit daunting. And like we said earlier there, it's not so bad when you actually start playing. And a lot of it makes sense. It follows like real world physics and things. So that makes it easier too. But it does take some practice. It's just, I feel like compared to some other tabletop games, it's really not as bad to enjoy yourself and learn the basics pretty easily. So I do like that a lot.
That is so. That is so. There isn't, I think, even on day one, day one, play multiple games, but on day one you can absolutely enjoy yourself, because maybe because you'll be dying so quickly, you'll be able to do multiple games all in the same day. So I suggest start with one tank each, but I think even after the first day you can then go on to 2 tanks each. And they have a point system for your tanks, and they have all of the tank statistics are on cards, so that you don't need when it has to deal with your particular tank, there is no need to go through a book to see what your tank can do. It's all on a card. That isn't to say that if you just got the rule book, you would need the cards, because in the back of the rule book, all of the statistics that you need for your tank are there as well. So you don't need the cards. I like to have the cards all in the colored form, all in the way it's supposed to be. I like the addition of the cards, but they aren't necessary. You could just get the rule book. Even the tokens are not necessary. You could make your own. But it's just easier to get the tokens that are already done for it, because there's so many to choose, there's so many to have. But you could just pick up the rule book if you already have the bolt action tanks, or you can pick up the bolt action tanks and the rule book if you haven't got anything. And they have starter set options available for you to choose from. A bunch of different starter set options. There's 2-player starter set option, which was Germans versus, well, Shermans, so British or US, I guess.
Yeah.
Which actually is enough to play a starter game multiple times over.
Yeah.
Also, there are missions in the back of the book that you will be able to replay over and over again, because there's an attacker defender, and who's the attacker, who's the defender, and what they need to do to win changes per mission. One of the missions, I think it's mission 2, the attacker's best way to win, to gain victory points, because it's based on winning through number of victory points, is to run across the battlefield and survive to get to the other side, while the other person's, the defender, has to shoot that person down to gain victory points. So it's not just a shoot or be shot system. It actually uses a variety of different ways to win the game, and who the attacker and who the defender matters greatly, and what the terrain looks like, where you put the terrain, whether you have difficult terrain, your ambush terrain. All of that will change up the game dramatically.
Yeah.
And when it comes to all of the cards, what do the cards do? What do you think the cards do?
I thought because we kind of learned the game in stages, but when we added in the cards, I liked it a whole lot better, actually. Every single phase of like spotting to aiming to loading to firing. So that can feel like it takes a while to get to actually shoot something. But when you add in the cards to, like, the event cards and some of the assets, it really adds it adds a lot to the dynamic of the game being a little bit more exciting. So I thought that was really cool to try out too.
Absolutely. So I definitely don't suggest you start off with the cards when you're learning how to play, but as soon as you've got the basic grasp of the game, go for those cards. The cards make it such that a British tank army has a lot better chance against a German tank army.
It's very true.
Right? The event cards basically bring in chance even more than the dice roll, because what cards you get is random. What cards you can purchase, asset cards can be purchased at the beginning of the game, so you can choose wisely which assets you think you might need, but how many you get is random. How much you can upgrade your crew at the beginning of the game is random. Very replayable.
Yes.
And then, of course, if you switch, even if you have the same terrain out, and then you switch sides, immediately makes it's incredibly replayable.
Yeah, I agree. And I also like the fact that whether you're like a novice or you've been playing the game for a while and you get good at it, there's kind of different levels you can go at it. Like, there's some ways you can just calculate certain, like, your crew points to get, the type of people that are part of the game, but you can do it in easier ways too. You can just look at the class of the different tanks you're using and go that route as well. So I like I feel like that's smart. I feel like that gives people different ways to just get in and start playing, but also adds to the complexity if you want to make it even more interesting over time too.
Yeah, I people who have never played a war game before can play this game.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like it'd be good for, like, people who are kind of just getting into tabletop games too. I felt myself.
And of course, also people who like building World War II tanks. You don't necessarily have to stick to the bolt action tanks. You can go smaller with a smaller measurement system, or you can go larger with a larger measurement system. The rules allow for that.
That's right. And even if you don't have a lot of time, like, you might only want to have a lower points or fewer number of tanks. So you can really, make your game as long as short as you want in that sense. So I think that's really nice, having that flexibility in the gameplay too.
Yeah, it is incredibly flexible how long it is that you want to play.
It was very easy for us to play together. I like that. It was fun.
I'm glad.
And there's, like, a lot of neat things with, like, the different roles that can make different crew tests that you have.
Oh, they're so
that adds a lot
tongue-in-cheek.
Yes, that's true too. And they add a lot of flavor, and they don't clutter up the game. They just kind of add more fun and immersion to the game too. So I really liked those as well.
Right. The last thing that happened to your crew member, it was your gunner, right?
I think
it was the driver, right?
Yeah, I had like a sprained
wrist.
I think was one of them. Yeah, so
it's pretty cute. My favorite is still that when the commander is shaken, he spilt his tea over himself, and now is scalding, and he loses a little bit of his capability for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I guess if there was something negative, what would be your negative part of it, if there was something?
I think, like I said, one of the main things is still it does take a while to get all the ins and outs of the process as you go through. Like I found that I couldn't, like when we started out, every few little rolls I had to check different things.
Right.
So, but that just gets a lot easier with practice. And as we said, it makes sense. So I think
all war games have that, and this one wasn't difficult to figure out.
It wasn't, but it just seems daunting, I think, at first a little bit when the rules are so much. So that's the only main thing that I think.
I'm of the same idea. You do have to go shuffling through the rules.
Yes, yeah.
As you're learning multiple times over, still have to go shuffling through the rules. So there is a quick reference guide in the back of the rule book, which will be very handy. Definitely. But I think you might want to consider just writing out your own quick reference guide for, those things that you happen to forget. Like, what is that darn bonuses that the tank commander gets if he's veteran? What is that again? Or even printing out a copy of the additional effects that happen to the crew or the tank whenever you have a hit.
Yeah.
Something like that. So making yourself a quick reference guide wouldn't take long.
Yeah.
And just so that you don't have to pan through the rule book, because it's all... so they have page references and they have a glossary. So it's not going to take you very long to find what you need to find.
No.
But... So some books don't have that. I very much appreciate a glossary, and every time they reference a rule, they tell you what page that rule is on.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Very much appreciate that. But I think just writing down a little quick reference to accompany the quick reference sheet that they already have would be great. So, with that in mind, did you like playing Achtung Panzer?
I really did. I really enjoyed it. I think, like I said, it's a game that I can even picture like friends playing. I can picture couples playing this game, and maybe even if you have kids that you're like older kids that you want to get.
Yeah, you're right.
I think there's an opportunity there for that. So
I do think maybe, I don't know what the age the age on the, but I would say 8 years old or older would have a grasp on the game. They need to be able to read their cards and contemplate future actions.
Yes,
which is
good. Which is a good activity too. But I mean,
8+, they could definitely join in at this point.
And the models are a little bit, that was the only other thing that I feel would be tricky with like a younger.
Right.
People getting involved.
Assembling the models.
Not painting them. That's not bad, and that's fun. You can add your own flavor with that too. But there were certain models that had like extra pieces on the tanks that were just a lot trickier than others. So, keeping that in mind.
Yes.
Yeah. It's still, and a little bit of finessing. Like sometimes there was like extra bits to sort of shave off, and the instructions weren't always super clear.
What they should do, if you want to know how to assemble a tank because you're having difficulty, you should comment below what tank it is, or check the channel, because I do assembly of these bolt action tanks for that very reason.
Yeah. You put a lot of like nice detail into what you show in the videos. Right. So it's really helpful. Yeah.
So if you had any questions about tank assembly, feel free to comment below, and I will see it and probably either have the tank already done so I could just comment to you directly, or I can build the tank. Because I don't know about you, but eventually I want to try, you kind of get this feeling where you just want to try every tank that has rules for it, for me.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it's neat seeing even the different models and stuff too, the way you can make them. So I totally get that. Yeah. I can see. And it's a nice price point. I think that's the last thing is like you can collect different armies relatively easily, I think.
There's starter sets where you can have basically a broad variety, because the tanks themselves can be built generally in more than one way. You can get a starter set for a particular army and have everything that you need to play. Or you can get the 2-player starter set and have everything for 2 people that you need to play, besides, of course, what you need for assembling. If you don't know, and would like to know right now what you need for assembly, you need hobby clippers, a knife, a hobby knife, not an X-Acto knife, a hobby knife to clean it up so that everything attaches a little better, or a mold line remover. If you think a child is going to be helping you with it, they can do the mold line removing. And then plastic glue or super glue. Plastic glue for the plastic kits is what I suggest, which you'll see in the videos, but there are some of the kits are going to be resin and metal, and in that case you would want super glue or some kind of putty to put all of the pieces together. And I think that might be everything that you need to know. If you had any questions whatsoever about Achtung Panzer, be sure to comment on them, comment below about them, because you probably won't be the only one asking those questions. All right, well, thanks for joining me for this
thank you
chat.
so much. I had a great time.
And I hope you guys enjoyed it. So like the video if you did. There will be Achtung Panzer battle reports coming out basically once our tanks and the terrain is painted.
Yes.
If you have Achtung Panzer and you're not certain how to play, make certain to let me know if you would like how to play videos as well. Tips, tricks for Achtung Panzer. We're still learning it, but it's been great fun. And I guess we'll catch you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.
Right? And as soon
Yeah.
as you add a bit of environment, it immediately goes, wow, that looks a lot more realistic than it is. So it doesn't I think first you're like, I'm so nervous because I made my tank all look so pretty. And then you're like, and now I'm going to make it dirty.
Can I make it look the right dirty, though? That's the thing.
That's what I'm going to be like. It's going to be slightly dirty, but mostly the rain washed it away, so it's kind of clean.
Okay, cool.